So if you guys have a table on your test or even on your review, okay, what I would suggest is you draw an H prime number line, okay, really F prime, but this problem is an H prime, okay? And do you guys remember on our number line where we put our critical points? Like how did you know what was a critical point? Where F prime was equal to what? 0 or D and E, okay? So go look at your table and go find all the places where F prime is equal to 0 or D and E. Do you see that? And then label those points on your F prime graph. But remember, those points that you label are critical points. So the points that you label are not 0. The points that you label are your X points. Do you remember that? Okay. Now we're going to put in plus, 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 minus, minus, minus. But when you put in your pluses and minus, those are not your X points. Those are your F prime points. Okay, so it's kind of confusing because these are your X points, like the labels that you guys put in, like for the tick marks. But when you do plus, 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 minus, 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 you're plugging in to your F prime. So what you want to do is go look at your F prime row and figure out plus or minus. Okay, so to the left of -2, so I'm at the left of -2. Should I put a plus or a minus here? Remember, this is an F prime number line or an H prime number line. So which number would I read, the -3 or the 2? The 2. So this would be positive. Does that make sense? Because the 2 is positive. All right. Now between x equals 2 and x equals 1, so I'm looking at between this right here, this area right here, this interval. Okay. Am I going to put positive or negative here? Negative. Where are you reading that from? Yeah, this bottom row. You should be reading from the H prime row. And then when x is greater than 1, am I positive or negative? Positive. Okay.
If you had one positive and one negative between
you wouldn't. You wouldn't. You know why you wouldn't? Because because it'd have a 0. You'd have a 0 in there.
Oh,
yeah, and every time a 0 changes from positive to negative. But if you do see that, that's probably you're reading from the wrong row. Okay, if you do see that. All right. So let's say if H prime is positive, we know H is increasing, right? If H prime is negative, we know H is decreasing. And if H prime is positive, we know H is increasing. This is a picture of H. H is in another room. Okay, I can't see H, but I have an idea of what H looks like. Okay, here's my question, guys. Where is H decreasing? Can you tell me? Very good. You want to read from the x-axis. So that's -2 to -1. Okay. Is it -2 to, I'm sorry, -2 to +1. The most common wrong answer, so let me just tell you the most common wrong answer, is students, they don't draw a number line. So they'll just say, well, when H prime is positive, H is increasing. And when H prime is negative, H is decreasing. Okay. And what they'll do is they'll be like, oh, H prime is negative. H prime is negative right here. And so they'll choose -1 and 0 when they really should have gone further. Does that make sense? They should go all the way to the critical points, not just narrow in on these -4s and -5s. Okay? All right. You feel like you guys can do that on your own. All right. Ryan, if you'd like to go, you can. I'm going to do number 8, guys, on your homework from last night. And most of you guys, I checked your homework. There might be a couple of you that I still need to check. But I had a question on number 8, so I want to go ahead and do that with you guys. And it was this one right here where you had to draw the picture yourself. Okay, and you have a test question kind of like this. And the question goes like this. If you have a table, can you draw the picture? So we're looking at worksheet 2, guys, that you guys worked on last Friday. All right. If I have a picture like this, I can already put the points in, right? Because these are my X's and Y's right here. All right. So you have 0, 1, I'll plot that. 1, 2, I'll plot that. 2, 3, I'll plot that. And 3, 2. So no matter what I draw, it definitely goes through these points. Okay. So that's the first thing. This is algebra 1. Like you knew that from algebra 1. Okay. So now we're going to do the calculus part. The calculus part is you've got an F prime number line. So I'm going to draw an F prime number line. And F prime number lines, the critical points are where F prime is equal to what? 0 or what else? Undefined. So I'm going to circle all those. And everywhere you're 0 undefined, I'm going to go ahead and put my X values there. So remember, these are my X values. I mean, you could put X equals if you want. These are my X values. These are the critical points. All right. I also know that I have boundaries here because this is only between 0 and 3. So at 3, there's going to be some sort of boundary. And at 0, x equals 0, there's some sort of boundary here. So really we're working only in between. The other thing I want to do is the positive and negative. So just like the problem on our warm-up, you guys tell me, between 0 and 1, is f prime going to be positive or negative? Between 0 and 1. What do I have? Do you see it? You can read it right off the graph or right off the table. So what is it? Positive. What about between 1 and 2? Positive. Okay, we're reading right there. Okay, and we're looking at f prime. So what about between 2 and 3? Negative. So this will be negative, negative, negative. Now I can draw my picture. What does my picture look like? Well, it's increasing, then decreasing. And the reason I know that it keeps on increasing is I know f prime is positive, then it slopes of 0. So it kind of, flattens out and then comes back up. Okay, then comes back down. So I can draw that here. Like I can add this here. Okay, I don't know exactly what it looks like, but I know it's increasing and then decreasing, actually increasing in a slope of 0 and decrease. Something is happening here where I have a slope of 0. All right, now you can't finish this picture though without knowing the second derivative, okay? So I'm gonna draw a second derivative number line. And the second derivative number line, I draw it just like I did the first derivative. I go look for all the possible POIs, which is basically like the critical points, okay? So go find all your zeros and D and E's on the, no, just delete that. Go find all your zeros and D and E's on the second derivative. You see, those are all my zeros and D and E's, okay? And so mark those. This is x equals 1. This one's at x equals 2. And this one's at x equals 3. And for this problem, it just so happens your critical points were at the same places as your possible POIs, but that's not always the case, okay? So just letting you know, it just so happens that it's like that here. Again, I have boundaries here at 0 and I have boundaries at 3. Okay, so I'm only working in between, okay? Let's talk about plus, 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 minus, minus, minus. Now, I'm in my second F number line, F double prime. Where am I going to read plus, 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 minus, minus, minus? Yeah, the last row. Do you see that? Because this is the F double prime number line. So I'm going to look at F double prime. Okay, so this first says negative between 0 and 1. So this will be negative. What about between 1 and 2? Positive. You guys see where I'm seeing that? What about between 2 and 3? Negative. Now, here's the thing though. This is not F prime. This is F double prime. So when F double prime is negative, what is F? When F double prime is positive, F prime is increasing and F is what? Concave up. When F double prime is negative, F prime is decreasing and F is concave down. So if I have F double prime is negative, that means I'm concave down. And F double prime is positive means F is concave up. So this is a picture of F. And then F is concave down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this picture and I'm going to transfer it over here. So this says between 0 and 1, I am concave down. So remember, this divides into two parts, okay? This part is increasing, and this part of F is decreasing. I want the part that's increasing. So if I'm increasing, it's this picture right here. It's half of a frown, okay? Which is better than a full frown, right? So I'm going to come over here and draw half of a frown. Does that make sense? I'm increasing by half of a frown, okay? And then I'm going to be concave up. But this is, again, I'm going to divide this. On this side, I'm decreasing. F is decreasing. On this side, F is increasing. Guys, this F is just increasing. So what I have to do is take this part of the cup, half of a cup. So then I come over here and I draw half of a cup. You guys see how this works? Okay, so there's my picture. And then finally, I go back down. And this is a frown. But again, this part is increasing and this part is decreasing. This line is decreasing, so I'm going to take the decreasing part. So I'm going to copy this blue line right over here. And so there's my picture. It looks a little funky, okay? But that's my picture. It looks more like Picasso, right, than it does like any other normal picture. Okay, and the first question is, where do I have a relative max? Can you look at this picture and tell me where there's a relative max? Right there, right? And so this is going to be 2, and it turns out I know what the exact point is because they gave me x's and y's here, 2, 3. Okay, next question. Where's my POI? Where's my POI? Guys, the POI is when you change concavity, right? So look at all my concavity. Do I change concavities at 1? Do I change from concave up or concave down or concave down and concave up? Yes. So there's 1 at 1. What about at 2? Do I actually change concavity? Yes. So this answer would be 1, comma 2. And I guess really the 1, 2 is this x, these x values. I think, don't quote me on, I'm not 100% sure, but I think on your test I asked you only the x values, okay? But if I asked you the y values, which I actually could, you would pull the y values right here because you know them. 1, 2, and oops, and 2, 3. Okay, those are the x and y values. And then finally they tell you to sketch the picture, so that's the picture. Okay?